Good evening, everybody. Welcome to GH Gospel Radio and welcome to your favorite show, Let's Talk Marriage. And I'm your hostess, Dr. EFUA ADU-GYAMFI. This evening, we are talking about staying faithful in marriage. That's our topic for tonight. And if you've been following us for a while, you know that our focus is to encourage each other in our marriages so that we don't just stay married, but we also enjoy our marriages and then we benefit from being married. And also we are able to achieve our goals both as married people and as individuals, because being married is not an occupation. It's part of your life that's supposed to help you fulfill your purpose. So being married is not a destination, it's a vehicle for you to fulfill your purpose in life. So tonight we are talking about staying faithful to your marriage, staying faithful to your marriage. And the first thing that comes to mind is why would you even be required to stay faithful to your marriage? Isn't staying faithful to your marriage simple? Doesn't it come with the territory? Isn't it just like a matter of course? You are married, you stay faithful. That's what you do. But if you've been married for any number of years, and even especially for the first few years of marriage, you will come to quickly realize that it's not easy to stay faithful in marriage. When you're saying your vows on the altar, if you had a church wedding or a court wedding, there was a portion where you said vows to each other. If you had a traditional marriage, two families met together and then they gave each of you away to the other. The families agreed that you're married. They are behind the marriage. Whichever one that you did, there's a point where you sort of accept that this is the one I'm marrying until death do us part. And in some of the vows, you're even the traditional vows, that is usually the classic vows that is usually used at weddings. You vow to stay for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, till death do you part. And at the time you are saying that, most of the time, there are no kids. You may not have stayed together as a couple, so you don't even know each other's personal habits. And even if you've stayed together, you may not have stayed together for long enough, because marriage is for the rest of your life. So if you stay together for like 10 years and you're living to like 80 years, you have like 70 more years. Oh, not 70, because maybe you married at 25, but at least you have way more than 10 years to be together. And even for people who have stayed together before, they often say that whenever the marriage comes into the picture, everything changes. So even when you're staying together and you're not married, the minute you make it official, something changes, because of course your mindset changes. So tonight, let's explore the kind of marriage you're talking about, because we realize that people confuse a lot of things. Let's start with traditional marriage. And recently, there's been a lot of talk about being a trad wife, like short form of traditional wife. And what people are saying is that usually when you're a traditional wife or you are subscribing to a traditional marriage, the man gets to benefit, because that's how it was even in the early days in Europe, in America, everywhere. When you watch the Flintstones, you get an example of what it should be. The man is in charge, the man provides everything, and the man makes all the major decisions. The woman is a silent support, and she's not supposed to share her ideas or try to dominate. Even if a woman wants to make certain decisions, she would have to go about it in a very indirect way. So in traditional marriages, responsibility is on the man, and the man's wishes are obeyed. The woman is a support, the woman is quiet. And a lot of us from Africa, or for me, from Ghana, we realize that our traditional marriages, the men were king. They did not do chores. They had to focus on making a place for themselves in society. They had to focus on getting very gainful employment. If it was a farm, to get a big farm that would produce a lot and make sure everybody is cared for in the family. So men had to make sure there was a lot of financial provision, in that they saw to the ways of their families, they trained their children, and then all the other stuff like cooking and cleaning and taking care of children was the woman's responsibility. So it even got to a point where people thought it was unnecessary to send a woman to school, because after sending her to school, when she gets married, oh, she's going to stay home, cook, clean, and take care of her children. So all she needs to do is to make sure that she's a good cook. She knows how to take care of children. She knows how to keep a home. She knows how to decorate. And she's taught how to submit properly to the husband. Because in traditional marriages, women were not supposed to have a voice. Women were not supposed to have ideas. They were just supposed to have a demeanor of, I don't want to say submission, because what we interpret submission to be is not really what it is, but they were supposed to have a demeanor. Women were supposed to have a demeanor of obedience in a traditional marriage. And we saw that these kind of marriages favored men. And if you were in such a marriage and you were a woman and your husband died, you were in trouble because the financial provision is gone. But they had other arrangements in the family for the family to take care of the woman and her children and all that kind of stuff. We realize that a lot has changed since then, but we do know that some people still have traditional ideas. They feel like in a marriage, the man is the head, the woman doesn't get to talk, the woman doesn't get to have an input in decision making, and they try to make sure that the man is the one always providing financial support. In traditional marriages that have evolved today, a lot of times when the man is not working, there's a big trouble, and the marriage begins to collapse, because even though we are in more modern times, the couple may have this idea of being in a traditional marriage where the man is supposed to provide everything and the woman is just supposed to support. And that's where you hear comments like, if a woman makes money, it's her money. But if a man makes money, he has to take care of the whole family. And there are some people that when they are even getting married in a traditional marriage setting, the family members would advise them that if you go into this marriage and you make money as a woman, bring the money back home to your family. But for the man, everybody will tell him, work hard, make sure you take care of your family. And here's evidence. When you're getting married traditionally, as a man, your family and yourself, you go for a list from the woman's family. You're supposed to bring a list of items. And the more expensive the items you bring, in fact, they'll give you a list, which is mandatory. You have to provide those things to validate the marriage. If you are not able to provide the things, it's like you have not fulfilled your obligation to the marriage. You can't go marry a woman and not bring the items that the family of the woman asked you for. So that should tell you that the man is expected to provide, because it's an indication of how well you're going to provide for the woman. And in fact, how that list started was that as you're marrying the woman, they expect you to buy her cloth, buy her certain personal items, buy her a sewing machine, so that as she's looking after your children, she can make their clothes. That's where that tradition came from. So the man was supposed to show the family of the woman that he was capable of taking care of the woman and any children that may come in the marriage. So that's quite a bit on traditional marriage, where the man is head, the man takes all the responsibility, and then the woman is support and has a posture of obedience and always agreeing with the man. Let's look at contemporary marriages these days. These days, a lot of women choose their own partners. They may take them home to their family. They may get married. You know, in Ghana these days, we have the traditional marriage ceremonies, and then we go back to church and have the church marriage ceremony in addition. Some people may choose to just do one traditional marriage ceremony. whichever it is, we see that in recent times, a lot of women have been to school. A lot of women make their own make their own money. So it's not like traditional marriage where the man alone is supposed to provide. Here, the woman makes her own money, and then there has been this subtle change that because the woman makes her own money, and because the oftentimes men want women in their lives, there's this new attitude of happy wife, happy life. So the man is supposed to step up, help in the home, do dishes, help with the children, and make sure the woman is happy, make sure that everything she wants is provided, because hey, happy wife, happy life. So that is how contemporary marriage looks like. It's more of a collaboration between the man and the woman, and whoever is able to wield their power, they sort of get their way. It's not a great iron lock that the man takes all the responsibility and the man is to be obeyed, but it's more like the man is a partner, the woman is an equal partner. They both collaborate. Sometimes the woman may earn more, sometimes the man may earn more, but whichever way, they put their resources together and use it for the family. That's how contemporary marriage looks like. And you don't have to be a Christian to be in a contemporary marriage. But the third kind of marriage I would want to talk about is, and that we support on GH Gospel Radio, is Christian marriage. In Christian marriage, is a man, a woman, and God in the marriage. So it's not about pleasing the man, it's not about pleasing the woman, it's about pleasing God. So everything we're going to discuss tonight about staying faithful to your marriage is about staying faithful to your marriage in the Christian way, where you want to seek the will of God, where you want to please God, where what God thinks matters to you. Because there are all kinds of marriage. We just examined 2 other types of marriage, right? And those are not the only 2 in the world. There are many, 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 many more. And people are happily married in their own way, and they make it work the way they want to make it work. But for Christian marriages, we don't pick and choose what we will do and what we will not do. What we seek to do is to obey God in the marriage and also fulfill our purpose. Because at the end of the day, the Bible makes us understand that there will be no marriage in heaven. Jesus Christ answered a question to, I think, one of the Pharisees, that if somebody dies and the brother marries the woman, and the brother dies 7 times over, whose wife will it be when they get to heaven? Because she has been married by 7 brothers. So whose wife will she be? And Jesus Christ said, there will be no marriage in heaven. So the marriage that you have on this earth as a Christian, you are supposed to be a blessing to your partner, and you're supposed to fulfill your purpose, because on the last day, you'll be judged as to how you conducted yourself in your marriage, to your partner, to your children, and what you did as a married person. They will not look. The Bible said that on the last day, 2 will be lying together. 1 will be taken and 1 will be left. What you do as an individual in the marriage reflects on your partner, but you are not responsible for what your partner does. So it's very important that you make up your mind that as you are married, you are seeking to please God and not your partner. Why is this important? A lot of times, your partner may not be doing what you think he or she is supposed to be doing, or she may not be holding his or her end of the bargain. But that does not give you the excuse, or that does not give you the opportunity to also go ahead and do whatever you like. It's important that, in fact, you could go along and do whatever you like, but that is up to you, because on the last day, God is going to judge you according to what you did. I don't know how that judgment is going to go, but my belief is that God is not going to accept the excuse that it's your wife's fault that you did what you did, or it's your husband's fault that you did what you did. if you want to be able to have a good judgment or whatever. For me, my thinking is that make sure you're doing your part in your marriage, that when you go before God, you will not be found wanting. So most of what we're going to be discussing tonight is about staying faithful to your marriage the way God wants you to. So if you're a wife, if you're a husband, staying faithful to the marriage the way God intends it to be. So that is what we are talking about. The first thing I would like us to look at in staying faithful to your marriage, the first mindset is that we already talked about it. You're accountable to God. In as much as you are accountable to your partner, you are accountable to God first. And the Bible makes us understand that when you obey the laws of God, you do not break any other laws. Once you are obeying God, you are fulfilling every other law that is available. You may not even know about the law, but once you are in the will of God, once you are obeying God, once you are being accountable to God, you are definitely being accountable to your husband, because there's nothing that you will do to your husband that fulfills the law of God that will be against him. Everything you're doing will be for him if you are pleasing God, or everything you're doing will be for your wife if you are pleasing God. So keep it at the back of your mind that the fact that your partner did something wrong does not excuse you to do what you like, because at the end of the day, you are accountable to God first. And as you are accountable to God, you are automatically also accountable to your partner. So keep that in mind. That will really help you to stay faithful to your marriage. And then again, the second thing is that be a good Christian in your marriage. Being a good Christian in your marriage. You see, somebody said that the reason why there's no strict preparation for marriage is that being married requires you just to be yourself and to be a Christian. It doesn't require any special training, because if you needed special training, then you'd need special training everywhere else. By just being a good human and being a good Christian, you will survive in marriage, because the Bible teaches us how to act in every situation. There are people who are really good people when they are outside their homes, but when they come to their homes, that is where they let it all go. That is when they don't forgive. That is when they let their bad habits show, because that is when they relax. But don't forget that your home is also a place where you should be a good Christian. So whatever you are doing outside to be a good Christian, when you come home, do the same things. Let your family know that you're a good Christian first, before people outside will get to know that you're a good Christian. The other thing to help you stay faithful to your marriage is that you should not fight spiritual battles with your emotions or your physical solutions. Why do I say that? As Christians, we know that we come from bloodlines, and we know that the devil has corrupted this world and has corrupted DNAs, and there have been issues in every bloodline. So even as you are born again, even as you are a child of God, sometimes those bloodline issues pop up. Being born again, you're a new creation, but you still have your old habits. You still have your soul that has certain things in it. So there are things that you need to deal with so that it doesn't affect your marriage, or it doesn't affect your individual life. If there are issues you're dealing with, sometimes some families deal with alcoholism, some families deal with lust, like having several partners, cheating on their partners. Some people deal with divorce. There are certain families that have certain things recurring. There are some families that childbirth is difficult. There are certain things that when you see in your marriage, you can realize that this usually happens to people in my family. This theme has been recurring in the family that I'm from. when I look at my uncles, when I look at my parents, when I look at my grandparents, my grand uncles, this is an issue that has been going on in the family. That is when you know that it is not just coincidence, and it's not just physical, it's a spiritual issue. And when you realize that something is a spiritual issue, it's best to deal with it in prayer first before you try to solve it. Let's say that in your family there's been several divorces. Many of your family members are divorced. Your parents were divorced. Your uncles were divorced. Like, in general, marriages don't last in your family. And then you realize that you and your partner are quarreling a lot, you're fighting a lot, you don't seem to get along, your marriage is in trouble. It's important that you start waging the spiritual war first for your marriage instead of trying to fix the individual issues first. And you notice that I said fix the spiritual one first. That doesn't mean that after you've prayed and waged the spiritual war, you're going to leave it there. You have to address the physical side. You have to change your behavior. There are certain things you may need to stop doing. You may need to go to therapy. You may need to go find people to counsel you and help you cope. But what I'm saying is that when you realize that this is a spiritual battle, it's important that you engage with it spiritually first. You fast and you pray and you engage spiritually first. And you keep fasting and praying and taking the matter before God until you see a breakthrough spiritually. And then you can work on it physically. Because what often happens is that if you're trying to fight a spiritual battle physically, you will exhaust all your resources and exhaust all your emotions, and you will not even find the strength to fix the issue. And most of the time, if the issue is spiritual, after everything you've done, it will still not work out. So instead of dealing with an issue spiritually, instead of dealing with an issue physically, an issue that you recognize to be spiritual physically, it's important that you deal with it in the spirit first. You wage the war in the spirit first. You fast and pray, you engage spiritually first. Get a breakthrough spiritually first before you try to fix the physical. And in fact, once you start dealing with this spiritually, you're able to find the strength, or God gives you the strength to be able to handle the physical aspect of it. And sometimes after dealing with the spiritual aspect, the physical aspect even falls into place. So to stay faithful to your marriage, is important to remember that not all issues are physical. Some of them are spiritual. It's important to be able to recognize which ones are spiritual, and then you deal with them spiritually first and make sure you get a breakthrough spiritually before you work on the physical part, because the spiritual part, it's more important than the physical part. And unless you've dealt with that, it is not likely that you will succeed in the physical part. So to stay faithful to your marriage, deal with spiritual issues spiritually first before you deal with them physically. The other thing I want to talk about is that you need to pay attention to physical intimacy. As a Christian, before marriage, all your attention is on how to remain pure, how to keep yourself from fornication, and how to remain pure before you get married. On the very day that you get married, that marriage certificate gives you that freedom to explore physical intimacy. And there is no middle ground for physical intimacy, in a way that adultery is against the laws of God, in a way that adultery is not acceptable, in a way that Christians should not be adulterous. You should also know that satisfying your partner physically, even though it should be a thing for pleasure, it is also a duty you must fulfill. If you've been married any number of years, you realize that you're not always in the mood. You don't always want to satisfy your partner physically, but your partner is all you have, and you are all he or she has. She or he is not going to get the satisfaction, or she's not supposed to get the satisfaction from anywhere else. And a lot of times, your needs will not be the same. You may have different needs physically. It's your duty to make sure you are satisfying each other. In places where there are issues, it is still your duty to fix it. It is your duty to make sure that your partner is satisfied physically. Don't act like, oh, I'm not into physical intimacy. Once you're married, it's a duty, it's a chore, it's a bonus, whatever you want to call it. You have to make sure that your partner is okay. And making sure your partner is okay does not mean you have to accept abuse. Of course, it should be within reasonable limits. The both of you should be able to come to a place where you are balanced out. You are satisfied and your partner is satisfied. In a Christian marriage, it's not supposed to be one-sided. Not one person is supposed to have their way all the time. Paul said it. He said, do not withhold yourselves from each other. It never said, women, wives, do not withhold yourselves from your husbands. Or it didn't say, husbands, do not withhold yourselves from your wives. It just said, do not withhold yourselves from each other. Husbands, satisfy your wives' physical needs. Wives, satisfy your husband's physical needs. In places where you're not agreeing, or in places where somebody's needs are too much for the other to meet, it's important that you find help. And it's important that you talk it out and you work it out. The honeymoon stage is for you to learn each other, find out how to satisfy each other, find out what works best for both of you. And even after learning all that, there will still be times when one party is in the mood, the other party is not in the mood. You should work things out. You should be able to find a formula that will work for both of you. So that if even one person has to forego their needs for a season, you have a system or you have a formula for how you're going to come back and make it up to them. Make sure you are fulfilling each other's physical needs, because in marriage, you are all each other has. Don't starve your wife so that somebody will be looking at her nicely and then she would want to stray. Don't starve your husband so that somebody will be walking in front of him nicely and he would want to stray. Please fulfill each other's physical needs. Make sure each other is satisfied so that you do not create avenues for cheating. Sometimes it is due to lack at home. It is due to unfulfilled physical needs at home that people cheat. I'm not saying it's the main reason, and I'm not saying it's a good excuse, but sometimes you create avenues for your partner to be tempted when they are not getting their needs met. So please make it a point. When you get married, physical intimacy is a duty. It can be pleasurable, it can be effortless, but sometimes it's dutiful. Sometimes it's a chore. Sometimes you just want to make sure the other person is okay. Whatever you do, make sure your partner is satisfied. If you need to get help, go get help. And this is an area that is really broad. So God willing, next week, we will have Counselor Albert over. We will delve deeper into this side of marriage, because we cannot exhaust all the intricacies that go with satisfying your partner physically. And let's also make it a point. Let's also underline the fact that if you're not getting what you need at home, if your physical needs are not being met at home, you don't have the license to cheat. What you have to do is to work together with your partner to fix it. So, one way to stay faithful in your marriage is to make sure that you're satisfying each other's physical needs. Thank you very much. Okay, so the next thing we'll talk about is in terms of staying faithful to your marriage, is to invest in learning new things for the good of the marriage. Invest in learning new things for the good of the marriage. I got married at 27, and if I'm going to live till like 100 years, from age 27 to 100 years, and if my partner is also going to live till 100 years, we have how many years? 73 years to be in that same marriage with that same person. It requires that you learn new things all the time. And it's important that you learn a few things that would help you. Attend marriage seminars. When they say there's a marriage seminar somewhere, it costs $150. You know that those speakers are good. They have a good track record. They are Christians. Go for a refresher course. Go learn something new, because you have a long time to be married. By the grace of God, we're all going to live long, right? So you have a long time to be married. And if it's the same ideas that you keep recycling all the time, your marriage is going to get boring. So make it a point that every once in a while, let's say every year, you attend this 2-day seminar on marriage, or you attend this 1-day seminar. Sometimes when you go there, you may only be going there to share ideas, help somebody out, because as you help younger couples, you also refresh your own love. I remember we recently attended a marriage seminar in church, and it was very helpful, because sometimes when you talk about love, when you remember the times that you met, it refreshes the marriage. It's important that you put in some work into your marriage. I'm not saying that from January to December all you should do is be working on your marriage. That's not what I'm saying. But at least set aside time that you focus on the marriage. Let's say every year you take some 3 days to go on a mini honeymoon. Get childcare. Let your parents watch your children. Get childcare. The two of you just spend time together. Use that time to attend a seminar. Use that time to go on a vacation, just the two of you. And when you are going, leave your laptops at home and turn your phones off, so that the two of you can look into your eyes. You see, it's easy to grow apart because life is busy. And especially when you have children and your children are young, most of the time you are barely being able to take care of the children, let alone find time for yourself. And it is even in those times where you are too busy that you need to pause and make time for each other so that you don't grow apart. One thing that my mom often said was that one day your children are going to be grown and they will leave your house. In fact, my mom had a really tough time with us leaving her nest, because when we completed high school and we got to the university, we hardly spent time at home. And by the time we were completing university, we were getting jobs and moving out of home. So that time will come where you will be empty nesters. Your children will leave the house. And if you've been spending all your attention on making sure the children are okay, by the time your children leave, you realize that there's nothing left for the both of you. In fact, sometimes you may have changed so much. Your circle of friends may have changed. Your interests may have changed. And your partner would not even have noticed, because you're sort of living independent lives under the same roof. It is easy to stray from your marriage when you don't connect with each other. Some people make it a habit of connecting with each other every single day. It's important and it helps, but sometimes it's not practical. Some people have a ritual that every morning they'll give each other a hug and a kiss before they leave the house. Sometimes it would look fake, sometimes it would look like this is a burden, but most of the time, it is the one thing that will hold you together. Kissing and hugging your partner every day, if that's your thing, it's one thing that can really help you through the tough times. You may do it just to tick a box, but with time, you will realize that it helps because by you committing to checking in with each other, by you committing to connect with each other, even after the children have left home, your marriage will still be intact. And not only for when your children leave home, because your children leave home when you are old, you are nearing retirement. But even as you are in the marriage, if you don't connect with each other, you create spaces for other people to occupy your partner's life. And sometimes it's no fault of your partner that they are straying. Not that it's not their fault, it's still their fault, because if you realize you are straying, you are the one that should find your way home. Nobody's going to lead you back home. If you find yourself straying, lead yourself back home. But sometimes it's easy to stray when you're not getting what you need at home, when you're not connecting with your spouse. So a lot of times, make the time, make the effort to learn something new for your marriage and also to put back that energy. You may have children, you may not have the time, but set aside time. Make a conscious effort to set aside time for each other every year. Aside of the things that you do every day, every month, every week for each other, make sure you setting aside time to connect with each other and work on your marriage. Just the two of you, so that you are on the same page, so that you are in each other's lives. Because when children come in, when your careers come in, sometimes you drift apart. It doesn't matter how good you are, how moral you are. It's easy to drift apart when you're not making the effort to work on the marriage together. And whoever you marry, if you even divorce and go and marry somebody else and you don't connect with a new person, you will still break up with a new person. It's just a matter of time. So the one that you have, maintain it, stay faithful to it by learning new things and connecting with each other. Attend those marriage seminars. Go for those vacations, just the two of you. Get childcare. Go for those vacations. Connect with each other often. Some people have a way of connecting with each other daily. You see, when you've been married for a while, sometimes your wife calls you, you don't even pick up. Your husband will call you, you not even pick up. They'll send you a text message, you'll not reply. These are the little things that make you grow apart slowly. Nobody has to do anything. All you have to do is to stop doing those things that help you connect and bond. And if you don't want to be empty nesters who don't want to look into each other's eyes anymore, then make a conscious effort of connecting. If you don't want your partner to stray, make that effort to connect. Sometimes people are married, they are living under the same roof, and yet they are having emotional affairs. Somebody else is making them smile. Somebody else is making them laugh. They are connecting with somebody else outside of the marriage because they've left a vacuum in their own marriage. They are not connecting with each other. Let's look at Adam and Eve. I don't know where Adam was the time that the snake was talking to Eve. If Adam was connecting to Eve, I'm sure that the snake would have met Adam there and the two of them would have defeated the snake, right? This is just an aside. The point I'm making is make sure you're connecting and then spend time, a little bit of money and effort in refreshing your marriage and connecting with each other often. Do it as often as you can afford to. We know that life happens. We know that career takes you away. We know that business takes your time. But make sure that you're working on the marriage. You're learning something new. You're investing in the marriage, doing those kind of marriage seminars and counseling and those workshops and those vacations. I think I've said enough. We have understood that point. So the last thing I would want us to look at in helping us stay faithful to our marriages is to listen to your partner and take what they say seriously, even if you do not understand them. To stay faithful to your marriage, listen to your partner, take what they say seriously, even though you may not understand it. This matter is so underrated, it's not even funny. A lot of times when wives are talking to husbands, the husbands feel like this is a trivial issue. Why are you even giving attention to this? Sometimes when husbands are talking to wives, the wives are thinking, this is not important. Why are you being so childish? Why are you being so immature? That is grounds for creating problems and creating dissatisfaction and helping your partner to stray. Sometimes people are even afraid to share their true feelings in marriage because they don't know how their partner is going to receive it. If you are not accommodating, if you are judgmental, your partner will not tell you the truth. Let your partner be able to tell you the truth, to be able to offload their deepest fears. Be a safe space for them. And when they tell you something, if they tell you that this thing really upsets me, take it seriously. You may think it's trivial, but if it's important to them, and if you can accommodate it without sacrificing yourself or without being abused, please do. If your husband says, every time you come home late, it bothers me. If the reason you are coming home late is not a good one or it's not an essential one, compromise. Start coming home earlier. If your wife says, when you leave dishes in the sink, it annoys me, do not act like you did not hear her. Take her seriously, because one day when the pressures in your marriage is high and she comes to find dishes in the sink, that could well be the end of your marriage. See, when things are not going well in the marriage, the little things can tip you over the edge. So create a safe space for your partner to be able to tell you the truth. Don't be judgmental. Don't make fun of what they say. And don't act like what they are saying is trivial. Take it seriously. Try to understand them. Try to ask them questions and then compromise. We are not saying that whatever your partner says you should do. No. But whatever they say, take it seriously. Put yourself in their shoes. If you are able to accommodate what they are saying, go ahead and accommodate it. Make sure they are also getting some satisfaction out of the marriage. Nobody runs away from something that is working for them. In this life, everybody is aware when something is good or not. So when somebody is living a marriage, it's not because they are having it good and they want to leave. Most of the time, people leave because they are not having their needs met. They are not happy anymore. They are not satisfied anymore. And marriage breakups don't happen in a day. The person will start complaining. They will keep complaining, and they stop complaining when they realize what they are saying is not being heard. What they are saying is not being taken seriously. So to stay faithful to your marriage, make sure you are listening to your partner. Take whatever they are saying seriously. Even if you don't understand what they are saying or you don't agree to it or it sounds trivial to you, make sure you are taking them seriously and you are compromising in a way that they also get some satisfaction out of the marriage. Sometimes what happens is that if you're getting to the point where your partner is not satisfied, they'll start living independent lives. You'll be living under one roof, but everybody is doing their thing. And somebody will say, let's agree to disagree. That agreeing to disagree means you are no longer on the same page. You are no longer a couple. You're just existing under one roof. You are no longer a team. As a team player, listen to your partner. Compromise where it's necessary. Create an environment where your partner can trust you enough to share their deepest feelings. And creating that environment means that you will not be judgmental. You will not trivialize their issues, but you will take them seriously, try to understand them, meet them halfway, and then compromise with them. If whatever they are asking is something that you cannot do, of course, let them know you don't see it as trivial or unnecessary. Let them know that you may not understand where they are coming from, and also help them understand that you are not able to fulfill that. But whatever you are able to fulfill, whatever you are able to compromise on, if it's something as simple as washing the dishes after you finish eating, that thing is something that anybody can do. I'm just using that as an example. If your partner is saying, it annoys me when you leave dishes unwashed in the sink, make the effort to wash those dishes. Maybe you grew up not washing your dishes, somebody else was washing your dishes for you. So you are comfortable with leaving dishes in the sink forever because you didn't even have to go back and take care of those dishes. But now that you live somewhere else where you cannot afford housekeeping, you may have to wash your own dishes and you find yourself leaving the dishes in the sink. Once your partner complains about it, do something about it. Start making that effort to wash the dishes or put it away in a dishwasher, whatever. Make sure you are taking what they're telling you seriously so that they can also have some satisfaction in the marriage. So, this is where we're going to end our discussion for tonight. I hope we have learned a lot to encourage ourselves in our marriages, and we are walking away with something. If you have any questions, you can type it in the comment section. We will answer your questions. And like we always say on Let's Talk Marriage, it takes a good Christian to have a good Christian marriage. And until we come your way again with another great topic on marriage, may God bless your marriage. Bye bye.